All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with a little 49er video. Now, interesting story on NinersNation.com from one of my favorite writers on there. His name's Nicholas McGee. And the article is entitled, Could Danny Gray's roster spot be in danger at the wide receiver position? And I understand why the question's being asked, but let's get into it a little bit. And I'm going to tell you why I absolutely think that there's no way that Danny Gray's job is in any way in jeopardy. But let's get into it a little bit. Now, I understand why that question's being asked. Why is the question being asked? Because the 49ers are deeper at wide receiver than they've been. And it's easy to look at Danny Gray and go, he didn't do a whole lot this last year. And man, they're going with Brock Purdy, and he's the deep threat, and he seems like a good fit with Trey Lance. Is he a good fit for the 49ers if they don't have Trey Lance as the starting quarterback? Is Danny Gray a waste of talent? If you don't have a big down the field, quarterback who's going to take shots down the field to him. And I would say that, yes, the 49ers do have greater depth at wide receiver than they've had in years. Let's go through it. Brandon Ayuk, he's 1. Deebo Samuel's 2. Jawan Jennings is 3. Those are your starters. Those are your 3 starters. Your outside guys, and there's your slot wide receiver, Jawan Jennings. Your big slot. Then you've got Danny Gray, Chris Conley, Ray McLeod. That's 6. Most teams don't ever carry more than 6, but then they drafted Ronnie Bell, who had a phenomenal collegiate career. They re-signed Willie Snead, who's a very highly respected veteran, leader in the locker room. They have Tay Martin in year 2 coming back. Tay Martin is a big receiver with outstanding catch radius. And a lot of ability to be a chain moving receiver. Then they signed Isaiah Winstead, who, if you looked at the footage that he put out on Twitter of him working out, you can see the stop and start ability and the quickness at 6'3", 210 pounds. He's a big receiver who can really move. Now, he ran 4.7. So there's that factor, but man, as far as stop and start quickness and footwork, and he really looked good in those just running around cones, and he was very productive. I mean, if you watched him at East Carolina, the guy caught 88 balls this year, I think 6 touchdowns. He was a very productive wide receiver for East Carolina, the East Carolina Pirates. There's Tyron Johnson, there's Daz Newsome. There's Shea Wyatt, who's an undrafted free agent. There was also talk that the Niners were going to sign Jadakiss Bonds as an undrafted free agent. But I'm going to tell you why Danny Gray is safe. Because Danny Gray creates space. And he's the only receiver outside of Ray McLeod that really does that. Jawan Jennings is not fast. Deebo Samuel, relatively, is not fast. Brandon Ayuk is probably the fastest of their starting wide receivers, but he's not even a burner. The guys who can get deep on this team are Ray McLeod, Chris Conley, and Danny Gray. Ronnie Bell's a possession guy. Willie Snead, Tay Martin, they're possession guys. Isaiah Winstead, even though the footage looked great, he's a possession guy. Jennings is a possession guy. But that vertical receiver is a huge factor. And I've talked to Shanahan about this before. I mean, he's a play caller, and, he's a play deviser and schemer and sequencer. He's outstanding at all of it. You have to have this piece. You have to have the Danny Gray piece. The Danny Gray piece of the puzzle means so much more than anybody realizes, because you got to have somebody that makes a defense stay honest. You got to have that guy that makes the defense, not lean forward and anticipate everything being in front of them. You got to have the defense thinking that there's 1 or 2 guys that can run by them, and that can, you can throw the ball over the top of their head. If they don't have to honor your deep speed, you're really going to get you're going to get defended inside of about a 12-yard box, and your receivers are going to get beaten up. And that means more hits for Ayuk and Deebo and Jennings and Kittle and your running backs. and that's what Danny Gray does. He creates speed. You've heard the term. Hey, this guy takes the top off the defense. That's what Danny Gray does. Now, Ray McCloud's got some of the same elements, but Ray makes more and is older and has some fumbling issues in the past. And they also have other return guys that they could go with. He's not as good a receiver from scrimmage as Danny Gray is. So one of those two guys is going to have to be on the roster. And, I mean, I guess Conley could be the alternative because once upon a time he ran in the 4.3s. But he's 30 now. Probably doesn't run as well as he did when he was coming out of Georgia. So I just think when you look at the 49ers, I mean, there's a lot of speculation that because of the presence of Ronnie Bell, because they signed Isaiah Winstead and Shea Wyatt after the draft, because they signed Chris Conley as a veteran free agent, that Danny Gray is going to be on the outside looking in. I really don't believe that will be the case. I think there's four guys whose jobs are absolutely sewn up at wide receiver: Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, Juwan Jennings, and Danny Gray. And I think Gray's job's sewn up because he does something that nobody else does. He creates space. He takes the top off the defense. He makes defenders honor the deep ball. You can't be leaning forward when you have Danny Gray out there. You've got to be leaning backward. There's a chance he can run right by you, and there's a chance he can turn one catch into six. So there may be some surprises at the cut down. There always are, but I'd be more surprised if Danny Gray got cut than if Juwan Jennings got traded. I'd be more surprised if Danny Gray was cut than if Ray McCloud was cut, just because Danny Gray is young and he had a great college career at SMU and he's got home run ability, but he creates space. Offensive football is about creating space. Defensive football is about closing that space down. If you don't have a weapon that take the top off the defense, they will not honor the deep ball. And bottom line is Gray makes other teams honor the ball down the field, and he's that fast. He's a difference maker speed-wise. And for that reason, they may trade out some guys. They may not have Ray McCloud. They may go in a different direction at wide receiver. One of these young receivers may be able to step up. And who knows? A lot of people like Ronnie Bell. I personally like Tay Martin. Some people are going to like Isaiah Winstead. Somebody's going to like Shea Wyatt, Willie Snead. Everybody's going to have a favorite. To me, the one guy outside of their top three that's essential is Danny Gray. Because Danny Gray creates the space. Danny Gray creates the defensive mismatch down the field. Danny Gray is the guy who's the go pattern guy who is going to run right by you. So you have to take account when he's on the field, where he's at, how you're defending him. To play callers, having that deep speed is essential. And even though I like Ray, there's nobody on this team that can replicate the kind of speed that Danny Gray can put out there on the field. And for that reason, I'm very confident he's going to be here. To me, it's Ayuk, Deebo, Juwan Jennings, and Danny Gray, those four. And then everybody else battling for that one position. That means Chris Conley, Ray, Tay Martin, Willie Snead, Ronnie Bell, Isaiah Winstead, Tyron Johnson, Daz Newsome, Shea Wyatt, anybody else they have competing for one spot. And if I had to guess who gets it, I'd guess Tay Martin. But I really believe that Danny Gray, not only is Danny Gray not, his spot is not in danger, I think his spot is somewhat sewn up just because he is that important for field stretching ability and space creation that they won't move him. They'll give him another shot this year. Now, if he doesn't come of age this year, this will be his last year. But, they drafted him high enough. He's demonstrated enough speed. He's a true burner. Shanahan knows it. All the coaches know it. This guy changes the geometry of defensive football when he's on the field because he's got that kind of speed. So you never get rid of that guy unless he's got horrendous ball skills. And Danny Gray doesn't have horrendous ball skills. So not only is Danny Gray not the odd man out at wide receiver, I'll go as far as to guarantee that he's going to be on the roster. And it's going to be a competitive situation at wide receiver, but his spot is locked up. All right, in my opinion. Hopefully you enjoyed our 49er video. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. Check them out in Corte Madera or in Emeryville. They're open 7 days a week in Marin. Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. And thanks to all of you for supporting the Krug Show on YouTube.